Good evening, everybody. Welcome to episode 11 of, or 12. One of the two, of the Skookum Session Roundtable. Proud to say we've got a couple new members with us tonight, Mr. Nathan Rudd and Cory Rudd from the WIBS. We interviewed him a couple weeks ago on OTT. Amazing guys, books of knowledge, man. And we knew right away we were looking, we had representation from every region in the country on this show except the PNW, and found our guys. So, guys, it's an honor to have you two aboard.
Well,
Thank you. It's an honor.
Appreciate everyone inviting us in. It is an honor.
Absolutely, man. Our pleasure, buddy. And Mr. Justin Decker, my good friend. Justin, how are you?
Doing all right, guys. How's everybody doing tonight?
Could be better. Not gonna lie to you. I'm all right, bud. I'm all right. And next we've got Mr. John Switzer. Is it Switzer or Switzer?
It's Schweitzer. It's actually Schweitzer, but okay, Schweitzer.
I'm just busting your balls.
Oh, you do. I ain't got any left after you.
Last but most certainly not least is my homie Shawn Wilson. Shawn, what's going on?
What's going on, man?
Not much, brother. Just getting over. Found out I had mono yesterday, man, and it makes sense now. But I think I'm kind of on the up end of it now. Get a little more energy back, So yeah. Anyway, it's been quite the last week.
I've been popping fucking Xanax like Tic Tacs all day.
Yeah, you're not the only one, dude.
Holy
I got an anxiety order myself, man. This whole, I'm not even gonna get into it again.
Let's talk about Bigfoot stuff.
Yeah. You almost had me going again. Anyway, so what we're gonna get into tonight, everybody, is we're all gonna talk about some either reports we heard firsthand, or older ones, that we read somewhere, and we're gonna discuss them as a group afterwards, hitting the key points. I'm gonna let Justin go first because he's gonna be in and out. He has to take off for a little bit, but Justin, why don't you kick this off, buddy?
Sure, absolutely. I'll preface this just by saying, guys, that I've been into this subject for a very long time. Probably since about elementary school is when I started picking up books on cryptozoology. I'm a bit of a nerd that way. I was reading reports from the age of 12 as soon as I learned how to get on the internet. I mined the BFRO database. I would sit there for hours and hours and reading reports. At the time, I was living in Upper Michigan, the Upper Peninsula, and I was fascinated by Bigfoot, and I was just so disappointed that Bigfoot only lived in the Pacific Northwest or in the East Coast and nowhere near around me, just in Upper Michigan in the Midwest. And I was really disappointed about that. Eventually, I moved to Florida, and I started just reading more reports and doing my thing. And then I came across a couple of reports, believe it or not, from where I used to live, and I was flabbergasted. So one of the reports I read was just a simple road crossing report up in the middle of Upper Peninsula. And what threw me was I recognized the towns. The town was a town where my dad had a church. And so I was intimate with the area. I'd been all over those woods. My dad and I had gone trout fishing in the creeks back up there in the woods. And we even had a mountain lion sighting up there. And to read a report for an area where I was intimate with was really cool, but I was also kind of upset because I was no longer living up there. And then a few years later, I heard another report from the same area where there was a young boy and his dad were going out fishing. They were in their truck, driving down some of the back dirt roads. And the kid looked over and he saw what he claimed was a monkey sitting on the lower branch of a tree. And obviously we know there's no monkeys up in the Midwest, right? You don't find them up in the Upper Peninsula of Michigan. So the acknowledged report was that this was probably a baby Bigfoot. And so basically with these reports, what I kind of really discovered was while I was living up there, I was lamenting the fact that there was no Bigfoot up there, right? And the whole time, if I'd been paying attention and really doing my due diligence,
Meanwhile, there.
I would have found that there was plenty of reports from that area. And now as I
Absolutely.
go back, I'm finding reports from all over the Upper Peninsula of Michigan. And you know, my biggest thing is realizing, listen, these guys are everywhere. I know, John, you were saying there's not a whole lot going on in Indiana. I guarantee they're out there. You know, from Upper Michigan, I moved to Florida, right? And you guys might be familiar with the Mayaka River skunk ape photos.
Yes.
Okay. So those were taken in the area that I lived. And I didn't know about that until after I had left Florida, moved back to Wisconsin. So another huge missed opportunity for me as a young researcher. You know, and if you're not familiar with that case, basically the story was something kept stealing apples off this lady's porch. She couldn't figure out what it was. One night she went out there when she heard the noise and took a couple of quick pictures and managed to capture an orangutan looking creature hiding off in the salt palmettos.
Yep.
Very
Yeah.
famous photos, fairly controversial. The lady never came forward. She went and got the photos developed because that's how old the story is. And she turned them over to the police anonymously because she was afraid that somebody was going to get hurt by this creature. And from there, it turned over to an investigator down in the area and became the famous Mayaka River skunk ape photos, you know. But again, that was the area that I lived. I know exactly where those photos were developed. I tried to get a hold of the investigator at the time, but again, missed opportunity. I'm thinking, man, there's nothing here in Florida. This is all somewhere else. And yet, now that I'm an older researcher and I know what I'm doing a little more, there's hundreds of reports coming out of Florida every year too.
Oh, sure. 100. Actually, you know, out of all the states, it's top 5 for putting out reports.
Yeah. You know, and I kept lamenting, I got to move somewhere where I can do real research. I got to move. And I find myself now in the mountains, the Smoky Mountains, Tennessee. But it's just kind of looking back going, man, no matter where you're at, there's something to research. Get out there and do your thing.
Yeah.
You know, that's like my whole point with it.
Hit the ground. Yeah.
You know, Justin, if those photos are legit, and I think they are, those could
I
be
do
some of
too.
the best. Those could be some of the best photos if that's a Sasquatch. You know, that's especially that one. You can see the face and the eyes, and I mean,
Absolutely.
that's a great photo.
Yeah, that's no suit, and it's not an orangutan. I think it's
I don't-
legit. They look different down there from what I saw. It's
Yes,
totally different, but
absolutely.
I don't know
Yeah.
if it's a different species or whatever, but it's legit. I think it's legit.
Yes, same with the one in North Carolina. They're totally different as well.
Yeah, the only
As
thing
up here.
that makes me question anything about them is that there is a frond of leaves like stuck to the creature's face. In both photos where the creature's in different positions, those leaves are still in the same place on his face. That's the only question I have about those photos. I mean, there's eye shine, there's movement, there's expected movement. So the expression on the face has been analyzed by a primatologist and said that is actually what they call a pant hoot expression. And it's the expression when an ape is surprised. So it fits, everything fits to being a real live creature. But my only question is, what is that frond doing just stuck on its face? And that could be a natural thing. I mean,
It could
salt
be.
palmettos have rough edges. It could be stuck in the hair. I mean, who knows, right? But that's the one question on those photos for me.
Yeah.
Yeah. Very good stuff. Very good example. Very
Then
good example.
if it was actually hoaxed, why would they even do that? You know?
Yeah.
Well, if it was a hoax, they would want credit for it, you know?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Then that also, yeah.
Attention. Yeah.
Exactly.
And look, even the Bigfoot investigator that took that report and got the photos, does anybody know his name?
I do not.
Yeah, exactly. Right. So he wasn't even the one out looking for notoriety or money or out of this, you know?
Right. So that alone, you know, that alone says a lot.
Pretty good validation. Yeah.
Absolutely.
That photo is, like you said, that's phenomenal. And I've
John?
wondered this palm
Turn it up with Tad, John.
Oh, is that better?
Much better.
There
Thank
you
you.
go. I always do that, man. It's like forgetting to, I don't know. But no, I was just going to say that photo is phenomenal. And I wondered about those palm leaves as well. It
Yep.
does. It looks like they're the same place, even though it's movement.
Right.
That's what made me, I sat and looked at it. I went, no, that's a fake. That's a fake. And I kept looking and looking and looking. It looks like an orangutan to me. But, you know, we haven't really seen anything other than just people's descriptions. My buddy Jeff Williams just did 3 phenomenal drawings, colorizations off of descriptions. Skunk ape,
Mm,
Momo, and
mm.
basically I'll say Patty, but he's not released them yet, and I can't do it either for his sake. But nonetheless,
Yeah.
yeah. I don't know. That's a great photo. I like it. I'm still up in the air about it, trying to figure it out.
I mean, it doesn't look like you pull up a picture of a Sumatran orangutan and a Borneo orangutan, and it doesn't look like either one of them.
Yeah.
You know,
There's definitely similarities to put it into
there is.
family.
Yeah.
But I mean, your coloration is different. The coloration on this one is gray.
Yeah.
It's got the earth tone. It's not the reddish orange tone at all. It does have the cheek flaps of a large male.
Yes.
The hair structure is similar as far as the length and kind of the stringiness of it. The overall shape of the creature appears to be very similar, but there's a lot of dissimilarities as well. Like I said, the coloration is a big one.
I think it's a little more put
Skin
together
color is
too,
different.
Justin.
The hair color is different,
Yeah.
Yep.
So it kind of brings into mind when they talk scientifically, where some people believe that Bigfoot is a relative of Gigantopithecus blackeye, where the Gigantopithecus was actually in the orangutan family. So, that begs the question: could this be the one, this specific type, that is a descendant of the Gigantopithecus?
Just another one of those. We have no fucking clue.
That's it.
No
idea.
No idea. Yeah, that's good stuff, Justin. Good analysis. Excellent. You got anything else for us, bud? Do you have to get
just stressing, everybody out there listening, look, if you're into this, look around you.
Yeah.
Look around where you're at. Talk to your neighbors, talk to your barber, and see what's out there, man, because they're there. Anytime
You'll
there's
be
anything,
surprised.
they're there.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, who wants to go next? I mean,
I can go.
You want to go, Cory? Okay, go ahead.
Yeah. So this is for my dad's friend Dave, who's also into the subject. He actually interviewed this witness. So the title is Property Owner on Micah Peak Has Multiple Encounters and 2 Sightings. So a property owner on Micah Peak had his shop broken into twice and had meat stolen from his refrigerator and freezer. When the first incident happened, the man found the door to his shop broken and wide open. He immediately assumed that his shop had been burglarized, but after looking around, he realized that none of his chainsaws and expensive tools had been stolen. He noticed that his freezer door was open and then found that all his game meat was gone. The property owner rebuilt and fortified his shop door with heavy-duty hardware and hinges. About 2 weeks later, he came home and found that the same door to his shop had been completely torn off of the door frame. He said that he thought the only way to have done this would have been to have used a heavy-duty chain hooked to a truck. Again, the freezer door was open and whatever meat had been restocked was gone. Sometime after all of this, the property owner was riding his four-wheeler above his property. He said that he rounded a corner and saw what he thought was a homeless man in a big brown fur coat squatting and defecating on the side of the dirt road. He didn't go forward and held back, waiting for the figure to finish up. The figure eventually stood straight up, and he immediately realized it wasn't a man in a fur coat. He said
Did
it
it
was
wipe its
huge.
ass or no?
Right. He said it was huge, very tall, and completely covered in thick hair. When it looked at him, it then immediately moved away very fast into the wood line. Being in complete shock, the property owner took off and fled the area as quickly as possible. He saw this creature, or possibly another creature, on the mountain above his property a few weeks later. The property owner eventually ended up selling his property and moving away due to these encounters. That's crazy.
Mm-hmm.
Very
Yeah.
cool.
Yeah. I know we all laughed at Jeremiah, but I mean, that's kind of a legitimate question as a behavioralist, right? Like, how did that happen? How did that work? What were the mechanics? Man, that's amazing.
I think
Yeah.
they might be like dogs. You know, they got good pinchers. It just
Yeah, but
You know that
I did hear one encounter though where it was on Wes's show. There were the guy was on it. The thing knocked on the ground, Sean. It was in Washington somewhere, and it walked away from him. And as it was walking away, he could see fecal matter harden to its hair on the buttocks area.
yeah.
But you're right. I'm sure most of the time it's just pinned straight off.
That Micah Peak, guys, just a side note on that. I can step out my front door and see Micah Peak from my front yard.
Wow.
So yeah, it's
that's
pretty
cool.
neat. There's another mountain. It's Big Rock, Signal Point, and Micah Peak. It's 3 mountains on the same range, and there's multiple. I have other reports from that area too up there. It's a pretty good area.
That,
I mean,
Yeah.
we're close to Liberty Lake too, and there was that one report of, was it the guy on horseback?
Yeah.
You remember
I
that?
have that one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And he was
We'll-
terrified, like
We'll
hid in the
save that
bushes.
one. We'll
Yeah.
save that next time. But yeah, you're right.
Has there been any follow up with the new owners of the property? If there's been any incidents?
Not that I'm aware of.
Okay.
Not that I'm aware of.
Probably a good idea.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I always get really leery when I start hearing about food being burglarized like that. I
Mhm.
heard a report in the past of that happening, and the lady finally got tired of it and put a chain around her freezer. And according to the eyewitness this report came from, now this is one I heard, a couple of very angry Bigfoot showed up because they couldn't get the meat they were used to getting, and
Yeah.
basically carried this lady off.
Oh,
And it
geez.
was called in as a bear attack when this lady was found missing, and there
Wow.
was blood in the place. And again, this is a report. I don't know, I wasn't the one to verify it or ask the question, but that's what I heard
Yeah.
on a podcast. And this lady was gone, and they, apparently there
Man.
was a witness that saw it happen through the window, and she was the one giving the report. So I always
that's
get
a
leery
good,
when it comes to Bigfoot taking food from people, and then
right.
all of a sudden that source isn't there anymore.
That's a good point, Justin. I've heard not a lot, but a few stories where people have been gifting them food, and then they go on vacation for a couple of weeks, and the thing tears their house apart or their barn apart or whatever.
Yep. But
Yeah.
I that kind of, were you gonna do it, Nate? Because that kind of,
No, what's that?
it kind of brought me into mind what you were about to, what you said about the food.
Oh yeah.
I got a couple interesting ones. This one I know, Shawn, you've heard before. But there up here, there's around here, it's like, where you guys are at. A lot of people are very uncomfortable about talking about it. There was a guy I knew that inherited his grandmother's place in an area that's just so extremely, extremely remote. They will not talk to outsiders, and I live in the wilderness, but they're just like a separate type of people. They won't talk to you. But I had an older gentleman that was kind of a liaison. Okay, and I did know, like I said, I knew the grandson, and he mentioned the kid's name. And he said, "Listen, so and so inherited his grandmother's house, and he's having a problem." And I'm like, "Well, what do you mean?" He's like, "Well, it's your kind of problem." So I start talking to him, and he begins to tell me that he's got these 8, 7, 8, 9 foot creatures, hairy creatures running around his house, terrorizing him night after night after night after night after night, to the point where they were starting to get a little violent, aggressive. Well, a few months of this goes by, man, and finally his father decides to tell him, well, I never told you this because, you know, you would have thought I was crazy, but your grandmother had been feeding a group of Bigfoot for over 30 years.
Wow.
And
Jeez.
she died. So there goes their snack, cold turkey.
Mm-hmm.
They're going to get pissed off.
Yeah.
You know, they're going to get irritated. But this is one of those guys that, you know, like I said, I knew him before and always busted my balls. You know, always, you know, what's Bigfoot gonna come get you? That kind of stuff, you know. And well, first when he called, you know, that he wanted help from, you know. So, but it's funny how it kind of works out that way sometimes. But yeah, man, that's why I'm so against that. But that's a whole other subject. But anyway, I had a native friend, Big Chris, Shawn. You remember Big Chris, Switzer?
Good dude. Yeah.
Awesome dude, awesome guy. He was Mohawk and big boy, probably 6'4", you know, almost, you know, probably 350, almost 400, and he just passed away last year, 41. But he would go up to, you know, he'd disappear for 6 months, all on his own expense. Go up to Manitoba, Northern Ontario, and do research. Come back, report to me. We do interviews. Just a fantastic gentleman. Well, anyway, he was telling me he got talking to this elder. This is the last conversation I had with him actually. He got talking to an elder, extremely old elder, who back in the day was hunting, and it was an area known for activity. They weren't supposed to be there, but lots of game, needed the food for his family. Okay. So he's in this area and he's following some trails. All of a sudden, one of these things leaps out of nowhere, throws him against the tree, knocks him unconscious. Okay. He wakes up and there's nothing. He thought he had dreamed the whole thing at first, but you know, put it together. Wow, that really happened. No, I'll never come back here.
Wow.
You know, never. Well, lo and behold, the food shortage, and we're talking back in the day. You know, when you know the indigenous people and guys like us hunted, still put meat on the table with wild game. So he goes back and into that same area. Well, what do you know? This time comes out, does the same thing, throws him against a tree. He didn't pass out. He's kind of in and out of it, watching this thing, look at him, and grabs the gun, smashes the rifle over a tree, snaps it in half, tosses it on the ground, gets about this far from his face, and this is from what I was told, looks at him, and the gentleman told Chris the only read I could get with the look he gave me was, I'm not going to hurt you. Just don't come back here again. And he said to Chris, I never did.
Yeah.
Wow.
So
amazing.
that's all. Go ahead, John.
Just gonna say it's amazing what a little communication will do.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
without a doubt. Yeah. And you know, I'm part, you know, Mohawk myself, and they don't lie. They about stuff like that.
Yeah.
No, they've got nothing to gain, you know,
Mhm.
from making that kind of stuff up. They really don't, you know. I always thought that was a pretty interesting, very, very interesting story.
Awesome.
But I got a couple more, but someone else can go ahead first. I mean, anyone, yeah, and to add to that, any thoughts on that?
Amazing.
That tells you
story,
how
man.
smart they are, man.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
they're very intelligent, and that's more proof of it. I mean, a non-intelligent animal wouldn't do that, you know.
Right.
I mean, breaking the rifle. You think that was its way of making a statement?
I
Yeah.
do, for sure.
Oh yeah.
You know, and it's amazing because the thing could have killed him.
Oh yeah.
Oh,
If
easily.
he'd wanted to.
Lucky
easily.
it didn't. With the strength they have, even maybe not trying to kill him, it could still kill him. You know.
It was a good one, man.
Yep. No, interesting. I've got all his old interviews somewhere on my computer. I gotta tons up with it. I gotta have Gary try to see if he can figure out what's wrong with it. But I have all my old reports for Chris on that computer, and
You got to get those on a thumb drive or some thumb drives.
yeah, dude,
Yeah.
they're amazing. They're just some of the shit is just
Don't lose those, Jeremiah. Holy smokes.
out of this world. Oh, definitely not, man. Definitely not. All right. Who else got one?
Excuse me.
You want to go, Gary?
Go for it, Gary.
Oh wait, not Gary.
Gary's not here.
Switzer.
I was
Switzer.
looking. Yeah.
We vote John.
All right. When I say there's not a whole lot happening here, you got to realize I live in West Central Indiana. It's pretty much cut clean and flat where the glacier pushed stuff. All right. Except out west of us is Glacier Dump. It's the edge. And then south central Indiana is all Glacier Dump. And it's kind of like this, all Glacier Dump. All right, the way it works. Then it gets into river bottom. River bottom all leads down to the Ohio River, one way or another, or the Wabash, which goes into the Ohio. Where I live is, it's flat, it's cut clean. And so we got river bottom. All right. I found tracks myself, and we talked about those and before. Not going to get into what I've done because there's plenty of time in the future for that. However, my wife, which I'd like to get her on here at one point.
Yes, we will. Just tell her we're running behind.
Yeah. Well, no, not tonight. She's like, oh, I need my makeup. Gotta look at, Anyway, when she was about 13 or 14 years old, she was living in Minnesota. And I'm trying to think, the place was 9 mile something or other from the town or where they lived to the corner, 9 Mile Corner, I think is where it was. And it was like a liquor store, like a general store, so forth. So her brother and her sister decided that they were going to walk to 9 Mile Corner or this area. They were paralleled. And she said they thought it was a bear for the longest time, but it didn't come out. It didn't cross the road. It did not act like a black bear. And this is something that I urge people to think about what they have encountered. Don't just toss it off. Oh, that must have been a bear, or that must have been a raccoon, or that must have been this, that, or the other. She said it sounded, as now looking back on it, her a lot older now than she was. She goes, it was bipedal, whatever it was. And it was something that at the time they passed it off as being a bear,
Right.
until she thinks about it later. That's what I'm getting at. And then she's had encounters with black bears that, and I'm trying to change this into black bears. I'm not going there because there's a couple of other encounters that I want to talk about here, but of everybody here and most of the guys that I know that do hunt, my wife's had an encounter with black bears where she was within 12 feet of them and came out clean. She got away, but she's also right here in this area on her way to work. First thing she saw was eyes.
No nonsense lady too. I know his wife, and she's a sweetheart, and she is no nonsense.
Yeah, she's got morals out the wazoo and streets. That's why I married her. One of the many reasons. But
to make up for your lack of.
That's exactly it. Yeah, she puts me in my place all the time and corrects me, and probably right most of that time too. But she saw the eyes.
Room.
You're not in the room, are you? No? Okay, no, she's not. No. But now she's actually talking to her mom, and we're getting ready to head out to go to Kentucky. So if you guys know anybody in Kentucky, link me up with here. I'd like to do a little bit of scouting over the next 3 days.
Actually, I do.
Anyways,
Call me later.
I will. I will. It'll be tonight or tomorrow, but I will.
Remember Kelly, my old research partner?
I think so. At least
Lives
the
in
name.
Kentucky now.
Yeah. All right. Okay. Okay.
Yep.
Anyway, she saw the eyes, and it was about 6 o'clock. It was during, it was like March, roughly. January, February, March, roughly March. Still dark in the morning. She's on her way in the hospital. That's where she worked. She saw the eyes. And then the next thing she noticed was she thought a figure. And she thought, well, I'm seeing things. But then the eyes, she said, followed her. They were illuminated by the car light. She thought it was an owl, but there was no place for an owl to sit, and they were higher than the corn, the standing corn. Now, wait, it must not have been March. It had to be like October. All right. Because it was corn. And, corn stands pretty high. But those are the two things that freaked her out. She came back. She goes, I don't know what it was. She goes, I thought it was a man standing there. She goes, but it followed me with the eyes. I said, what color were the eyes? And she goes, they were like illuminated white, greenish. That's why I thought it was an owl. But she said, no, she saw a silhouette of a figure that looked like a man. All right. Now, several years ago, fella I ran into, I worked with his brother, and this guy and I got to know each other pretty well. He and several of the others, they were out just driving around, doing nothing that they shouldn't be doing, right? Probably drinking beer and smoking a doobie or something. But they were in the Hoosier National Forest. He said they round a turn. And he said, there it was, standing on the side of the road, and it was light colored. He said, as in he didn't say white, but he said it wasn't dark. It wasn't brown. It looked beige almost in color. Now, as I go on and I get older, it's like, I've not really heard too much about beige. But the one thing, of course, he's thinking, nope, it's what he's been smoking that's causing the problem, right? And he said about a half a mile later, someone in the front seat said, did you all see that? Oh boy, we got some kind of a bad connection there.
Oh boy.
Yeah. But he says, someone in the front seat made the comment. They said, did you see that back there? And he's like, well, okay, the stuff we've been smoking is not that good then, or something to that effect. But
really good.
Yeah, or really, really good. Yeah, it was a contact high or something. I don't know. But he carries a newspaper clipping with him. And it was not a report that he made, but it was a report of what someone else made.
Okay.
All right. Earlier than that. Now, this would have been back, well, I was at the same area in 1974, roughly, when I heard the wood knocking, and in that whole area. Now, there's been others in Indiana that have gone down in the area of Low Gap Road, which is the area we're talking about. They found footprints. Some of them have seen sightings. I think Chance was one of these guys, Jeremiah.
Yes, he was.
Right. But this would have been in the area of Hoosier National Forest. Out near, also down south of Bloomington, Indiana, across Monroe Reservoir, Boy Scout camp down there. And it was south of the Boy Scout camp. I'm trying to remember this stuff, man. I'm not just making it up. I'm trying to remember it, but it was south of the Boy Scout camp, and I cannot remember the name of the recreational area to save my life. But in that area, there was a report of someone saw it, said it looked like a big monkey in their backyard. And when they drove up, it looked at them and looked back down, looked at them again, and booked. It ran off. They said on fours. So they thought it was a dog. They went back. They found footprints but they didn't describe, and I'm trying to remember. It's BFRO has probably got the, got the report. Matter of fact, I think they do. But the footprints that they described were not like the footprints that we all get in our heads, of
Right.
what it is. It was like 4 toes and claw marks, something of that. I didn't follow it that well on it. Wasn't asked to come in. They had a wildlife biologist or a park ranger come in and say, well, you must have seen a coyote or something to that effect. I think a lot of times they toss it off because it's as such, it's an officer. I don't think it's a cover up. I think it's well, I don't know that much about this, and I'm just going to tell you that it must be a coyote. That way we don't get any more calls, and you don't get all upset and worried about a Bigfoot in your backyard. I think a lot of that goes on that way. A little bit
Make a
west
lot
of
of
us here.
money as well.
Yeah. I mean, you could lose money. Yeah.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah. Wrong report. I mean, you're going to get guys like me down there wanting to see, and then you get into a situation of confronting the people that own the property. And if they have been telling the story or repeatedly, there's going to reach a point to where if they don't get any satisfaction, they're not going to repeat that story again. They're going to think you're just another, someone down there, snooping, whatever. But west of us
No,
here,
we would be, but
yeah, sort of, yeah, but not for cash. That's the difference. West of us here again in river bottom, that seems to be where the activity is that I've noticed in my area, and moving west is all in river bottom. There was a couple that were mushroom hunting, and they had separated, so it was that time of year for mushrooms. And evidently the lady saw what she thought was here again a man, but real hairy and real furry. And to look at his face, he was rough, unshaven, but the hair didn't stop at his neck or his shirt because he wasn't wearing a shirt, she said. And that the hair continued on down the arms and on the shoulder, and that it scared her. So she booked and she got back to her husband as fast as they could. And then I believe if I remember the story well enough, then he saw it. And it was like, well, it's not the quantity of time, it's the quality of time mushroom hunting. We've had enough. Off they go to the car, the truck, whatever, and got the hell out of there. Like I say, there's not a whole lot of activity here. It's a Bible country. And I mean, you could get off on Bigfoot and the Nephilim and the Bible and so forth like that on another night, another program. But it's kind of hush hush. And I think there's people that you ask them and they're just kind of mumbling like, oh, well, whatever. They may have seen it, but they don't want to talk about it. And then you got the people around here that you say it and they go, oh, you're not one of them, are you? Blah, 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 blah. And they may be running with somebody, though. And we've all run into it, I think. Yeah. But they may be running with somebody, though, that'll pull you aside later, and go, hey, you know what? But it's going to be interesting this week to see what I'm going to hit a couple of, I know I'm not going to be able, well, unless Jeremiah, you come up with an idea for me, but I'm going to hit a couple of sporting goods stores. Hey, if ammunition's that hard to get, maybe stories will keep people around in a cup of coffee, something like that. But
absolutely,
we'll see.
Yeah.
We'll see what. I'll put my feelers out. But my father-in-law is from Minnesota, and they something up there. They often talked about being brush apes. All right.
Okay, never heard that one before. That's cool though.
All right.
I like that.
Well, but there's a reason they called them brush apes because they didn't know what it was, but it was the monkey chatter that you hear out of certain owls They couldn't see them. They just heard it, and they called them brush apes for the lack of, and what did it sound like? That type of thing going on, like you get out of, I think, what is it? Is it a barred owl? I
Yes,
can't
that
remember which one it is. Is it barred owl? Yeah.
and
I've heard
the snowies up here will make some weird, funky, tricking noises as well.
And yeah, and it happens at night, and they're loud, and it's it'll make your sleep uneasy if you just happen to hear it. And then you've got screech owl, that when it sounds like it's trying to imitate a ghost, woo, like that when it's flying, or you'll hear it moving so fast. I think a lot of what people hear would be an owl. I really do. That, between that, a coyote, and a fox.
It is. It is. In my opinion, though, it's always a little bit, from what I've experienced, always a little bit different.
Yeah.
What would you guys say? Just it's always a little bit off. They get
can tell.
Well, just be.
No,
You
I
have
know what you're saying,
experience in the
John.
wilderness. You can tell
Yeah,
something's off. I mean, it's
Oh,
pretty.
yeah.
Guys,
They always
this is why when I'm talking with people, I always make sure, know what's around you first,
exactly.
I remember one time I'd heard this crazy call, no clue what it was. Couldn't figure it out for the life of me. And so I recorded it and sent it to one of my local researcher guys. And he was like, man, that's the mating call of an American toad. And I'm like, are you serious? I'm like, this is so loud and obnoxious, and it sounds like it's blowing my, and then I pulled up recordings, and sure enough, that's what it was. And I'm familiar with most of my night sounds, but that was just one that I couldn't pinpoint. And sure enough, it was a stinking toad.
I
had someone send me a recording of a god awful scream, and they were convinced it was a Sasquatch. And as soon as I listened to it for a couple seconds, I knew what it was. It was a fisher.
We've got a frog up here, and I can't think of the name. It's a little bitty tiny frog though, and you talk about loud, but it sounds like, forgive me, it sounds like a fart. It sounds like
Okay.
Forgive you.
Like that, and it's this little freaking frog,
Fart
but
frogs.
one of the things, fart frogs, there you go. But one of the things that just goes through my mind, and it gets me, and I can't shake it, is that people have the attitude. I mean, I say people. There are people or folks that have the attitude of, well, I ain't never seen a Bigfoot, and I'm in the woods all the time. Okay, you might go mushroom hunting, and just because you've seen a deer or a coyote, they think they're way the hell back in there, Yeah, we've seen deer. Okay, I see deer at the golf course, but it doesn't mean they're putting 9 holes. I see them, I've seen them at deer hunting one year, and I didn't see any. And I passed this golf course at night, right? The moon's out, and I was out there until sundown, And I passed this golf course, like on the 7th hole, there's 15 freaking deer standing on the green. And I'm like, well, they're, must have had something better there to do. But just because, I can't impress this enough, just because you've seen a deer or 2 or 3, or you feel that you're in the wild because you've seen a deer or a coyote or a raccoon, you see that in the city. You see deer right in Indianapolis. You see coyotes coming through Indianapolis on White River. And you see them right on Washington Street, which is Road 40, oh gosh, I can't, Braddock's Trace. Oh my God.
Yeah. Nate has experienced fighting raccoons in his backyard.
Oh yeah.
Oh,
that's a true story.
I chased a deer down my street on my chopper in town here in Lincoln, Nebraska. So they come up through a canal, and they break off and walk through the neighborhoods. It's weird.
I was in Denver, and there was a report I read about how did that go? It was in not a report, but it was a news clipping. Cougar mounts jaguar, something a little bit. All right, a cougar or mountain lion had come through the river bottom, the Platte River.
Yeah.
Got in this guy's condo, the garage to it, and his jaguar was sitting in there, and and the guy walks out, and here's his cougar sacked out on the warm engine, the hood of the engine. All right, on top of his jaguar, there was elk or moose, I forget which it was, that got through a regular door. They know how to get their antlers in, you know.
Oh yeah.
And Jeremiah, moose.
Yeah.
Well, how many reports do you see of moose in downtown, you know, in the city, in the area?
Oh my God.
They're
A
fearless.
lot. They last God, when was it? Within the last year. There's a town called Chattagay, a few miles down the road. They had a big bull walk right down Main Street. I mean,
Yeah, you don't want to jack with them.
it happens all the time.
So
You know, it happens all the time up here. Yeah.
yeah, so there ain't no Bigfoot, because I've seen a moose in downtown, and I've seen deer, and I've seen coyotes, so there can't be no Bigfoot. You know. That's
Yeah,
all the
exactly.
Bible, I guess.
Yep.
Anyway, that's
Good stuff,
about. You know, I wasn't really ready for tonight, but you know, the subject, or I'd look at
John, you're always ready. Come on now.
John, that's good stuff.
Yeah, well, it's very good stuff, John. John's the more you work with John, I'm going to give you a plug here, John. The more you work with John, the guy comes across as a comedian, but he is one of the most intelligent men you will ever meet. Shawn, I think you could probably second that.
Yeah, John, he's a smart dude.
When you got that much knowledge, it just kind of pours out, you know.
Yeah, right.
I gotta wear
And he's very, very humble too.
Yeah,
Yes.
Gotta wear sunglasses because the sun shines on me all the time. If you can't have fun, what the hell, you know? That's
exactly.
That you know, we were talking about the Mayuka. Is it Mayuka?
Mayaka.
Mayaka.
Yeah.
Right. That one, Bob Gimlin does a really good breakdown. While we've been talking, I'm skimming across it on my TV, and that's pretty. He does a really good breakdown on that. If anybody wants to check that out, listening, Bob Gimlin does. I like him. He does good stuff.
Yes.
But let me get into a few things that I've seen or heard.
Yeah, absolutely.
Just south of town here, there was a woman who saw one just outside of. Gosh, what is the town called? It's 20 minutes south of Lincoln, and a woman saw one walking through a canal and up into a cornfield and out. Another person. So a friend of my girlfriend's brother, David, he's got a buddy that works for Parks and Recreation here, and he was out at Branched Oak Lake. I've texted this guy 4 or 5 times. He will not talk to me about it, but I've heard the story secondhand from David. He was out there by Branched Oak and ran into this thing, and it scared he won't talk about it. It's just scared him the piss out of him, you know. And when you we were talking about these things being everywhere. I'm in Lincoln, Nebraska. I grew up in Denver, and I hunted the Rocky Mountains until I was 30. Never believed in Bigfoot, never thought about this shit until a couple of years ago when I saw one here, you know. And anywhere there's food, you're going to find these animals.
Yes.
So that aside, like you know, like Switzer says, there's not a whole lot going on out there. I don't hear a whole lot around here. There are reports, though. The reservation, there's quite a bit of activity up there. The Squatch, I can't remember. They got their own YouTube channel, and they're pretty good.
But try would that be shot?
I can't remember. Don't know. I don't want to screw it up, so I'm not going to say.
What is it about the reservations? You hear of so many encounters on reservations. Is it that connection that the First Nations have with them?
It might be.
I think it's the connection and the
Res Squatchers. It's Res Squatchers. That's the name of the YouTube channel if you guys want to check it out.
Okay.
watch.
Carrie Arnold actually went out there and did a whole bit with these guys, and they're pretty cool.
I think I'm familiar with them. Yeah.
Yeah, pretty good guys.
Is that Rez with a Z? Rez?
Yes, I believe
Yeah.
so. Maybe.
But yeah, they're the same way here with them. You know, I mean,
Yeah.
they can. I think it's the connection. You know,
Right.
they really do.
Anybody's, you know, I lived out in Colorado too, you know,
Yeah.
and anybody that's familiar with, it's kind of hard to describe a reservation. Oh, it's not, it's different. All right. Then it's different. And
Yes.
lifestyle, so forth like that.
Mhm.
Actually, I'm envious, you know, I'm envious. I'm part Cherokee, and it's like an quarter an eighth Cherokee, but nonetheless, man, there's a lot of respect, and but there's a lot of spiritual that goes on.
Oh my God.
You know, Jeremiah, I know you are. You know, am I on the right? I don't want to mislead anybody with what, you know.
No, there's, unfortunately, yeah. I don't want to piss anyone off, so I won't get into it on the radio. I might get one of my relatives might slap me around tomorrow for.
Well, you know, you've got a social structure. You've got the same kind of problems that we've got here.
Yeah.
Okay, people, everybody needs, bleeds, and breeds the same, and it's just like I was having a conversation with a exterminator, and I don't mean Arnold. I mean, you know, bug guy the other day, and you know, every animal, we have our needs. We eat, we sleep, we breed, and we find the fastest way between point A and B. And we're all creatures of habit.
Absolutely.
So everybody needs, bleeds, and breeds the same, and animals do too.
Yep.
Oh.
Another quick, you know, just to throw something in there. You know, this reservation up here, for example, is right in the St. Lawrence River.
Yep.
Where are you going to find animals?
Mm-hmm.
Using that river.
Survival, if you can find a river, that's where you go, you know, and follow it one way.
May explain a lot of it as well. But anyway, sorry, Shawn. Go ahead, man.
Oh,
yeah, go on, man.
The one that I wanted to talk about, I wish I had it with me. I interviewed my very first girlfriend, Adrian. We hooked up when I was 14, broke up when I was 16. We were together for a couple of years.
Ooh.
We're still friends. All these years, we have the same birthday. Every year we wish each other happy birthday.
Oh, very cool.
If I go out to Denver, we'll have lunch, you know, and I'm still friends with her sisters, and we've remained friends. And anyway, her mother grew up outside of Portland. I can't remember the town. I had this all written down. Anyway, some small area 30 miles outside of Portland. They had this shotgun style house where you go in the front door and you can see straight through to the back door, and there's not much to it, right? Living area, whatever. And then there was a makeshift loft built in this house where her parents slept. Her and her sister slept downstairs. This is in the early 60s. So they just move out to this place and getting settled in and everything else. After being there for a few months, they come home from a grocery store. They're unloading groceries or bringing stuff through the front door. As soon as they come in the front door, they can see this thing in the back door. They heard the door shut. They can see this thing on the other side of the door. They all kind of froze, and it just walked away. Well, it had rained and there was a lot of mud. They walked through the house. There's muddy footprints all through the house, giant footprints.
Wow.
It had filled the wash basin up. It literally took handfuls of mud and filled up their wash basin full of mud just to fuck with them, I guess. And
are you sure it was mud, baby?
Yeah, no, it was mud.
Mud. I can see him taking a crap in the wash basin. I can see that.
But, I mean, it was one of those old style with the crank on the top where you run your clothes through the ringer on the top. One of those.
Yeah. My grandmother had one. Yeah.
So
It was
yeah,
gas
yeah.
powered. As a matter of fact, it had a gasoline engine on it to run it. Anyway, go ahead. Good.
This
It
might have
did. I
been
swear
too.
to
I don't
God.
know. It was in the whole back.
No,
It was in the back
no.
of the house.
I mean,
So
yeah. Go on with what you're saying. I didn't mean to draw you off.
trying to remember what happened
Yeah.
next. So of course this freaks them out, and they all kind of stay close to home and stuff like that. And things start happening. This thing would come up and slap the house in the middle of the night and scream at them. And it started harassing them pretty good. It would go whenever they would go outside. Not every single time, but quite often they would walk down the road or the path, and it would parallel them in the woods. She didn't say anything about the smell or anything like that. But one night it hit the side of the house so hard that it knocked her mother out of her bed and out of the loft onto the ground. And
Wow.
after that,
Yeah.
it destroyed the barn. There was a barn on the property, and everything inside the barn was trashed. That's when I think they lived there for 2 months, maybe 3 months, and split, and they went back to town. And when she told me this story, it was bringing back all the memories. She had PTSD. I could hear the fear in her voice. This happened when she was a kid, and now she's in her late 60s, and she wouldn't talk. I asked her if she would want to come on the other show and do an interview with us and stuff, and she said, no, I don't care if you talk about it, just don't use my name. And I'm too nervous talking to you right now. There's no way I could do this on for a show. But
Wow.
That's legit. I mean, she's
really affected
not
her.
a bullshitter. There's no reason she would ever make anything up, and I
Yeah.
believe her 100%.
Yeah.
I got you're okay. You just shook something in me that I remember. But first off, I told my wife I'd get her on the show. So there you go. Okay. But all right. Chippewa Chief and I were talking. He's a friend of mine. He was a chief at the time. He wasn't ousted like anybody. Anyway, how could I put it? All right, this white guy wanted to be accepted into the tribe. Now, he didn't tell me what tribe. Being Chippewa, I figured it was that, but we're talking in Colorado. It could have been Kiowa or Ute or Paiute.
Yeah.
Okay. So this white guy wanted to be a Shimohawk, wanted to be accepted into the tribe. And the shaman, I'm trying to remember. All right, the shaman built a fire with the 4 points, north, south, east, and west, down next to the house. Now, anybody's Native American out there that knows what I'm talking about, correct me if I'm wrong. And I don't mean to step on anyone's toes, but I'm always open to information. If I'm wrong in this and the way I'm describing it, help me, and help others understand. Anyway, they take this guy, the shaman takes this guy up on the side of a hill or up at the top of not a mountain, but up at a higher spot, builds a fire, puts a stake in the ground, rope to his ankle, a rope to the stake. Now, they didn't mention any party or peyote party. Now, there could well been one, I don't know. Shaman goes back down the hill to hold a vigil at that fire for this guy to have his peyote party or whatever was going on atop the hill. Supposedly, he wasn't down at the house very long, and he hears this loud thud against the side of the house. And he goes out and hears this fellow laying there. Don't know. And he's like, don't know how he got down the hill, how fast he got down the hill didn't make sense. Anyway, the whole thought, and when I asked him what happened, he said the shaman said he wasn't ready yet. In other words, Shmohawk, the white guy, was not ready yet, as the spirits saw it or whatever. Mm-hmm. Now, could this possibly have been the big furry boy hauling that guy's butt back downstairs, dropping him off at the shaman's against the side of the house. I've wondered about that. I don't know if the story makes any sense to anybody listening, you know?
The way you described the ceremony,
Mhm.
so to speak.
Yeah, I'm not going to get into much more, but you know what I'm talking about, right?
Yeah, each tribe does their own thing, does different things, but that makes sense. But it was a thud, so it wasn't. It didn't. Did they? Could it have been a boulder, or was there
Well,
any?
the fellow was laying alongside of the house. I mean, like a foot or two from the foundation. And to me, it sounded as though he was saying that he was thrown against or hurled against the side of the house. He wasn't broken or anything, but I have also left with, I mean, not a whole lot's going to be told to me. I'm only like about an eighth or a quarter Cherokee, right?
Yeah.
Okay. But to me, it sounded like I said a peyote party. You know, I didn't say pity party. I said peyote party. It sounded like something like that, maybe. And, you know, God forgive me, boys forgive me, Native American forgive me. You know, I'm telling it as I heard it, as was told to me as best as I can remember. We're talking 1982, 1980, right in there. I've slept since then, a couple of times, you know. Drank a lot of coffee and had my own parties. So I don't know.
Okay.
There
Justin,
you go.
did you have another before I get into these? Justin.
Is he there?
Who are you talking to, Jeremiah?
Justin.
Oh, Justin.
He said he might be
his
in and out.
his microphone is muted right now. He needs to unmute.
Ah, yeah.
Oh well,
I do
works
that
on
when
that.
I do that when I got
Yeah,
kids around me too, you know. No.
Yeah.
Yeah. Uh-huh.
He'll jump in
Okay.
when he can, probably.
Here's some. Okay, these are interesting, guys. Extremely. Okay. First one I want to mention is one more from Big Chris. This was in Ontario, and northern Ontario, and there was a time of year where the indigenous people do just a canoe, race down a river, and they, one behind another, and anyway, two guys in each canoe. Okay, so there's a bend around the river goes around this big bend. Okay, and there's three of them separated from the group. First one goes around, and the middle one, just as the middle canoe is about to round this bend, so a massive boulder is tossed from the cliff on top, lands right in the middle of the two guys in the canoe, does some unbelievable damage to it. Now, kicker is the guys behind them saw the whole thing happen. Said they saw the Sasquatch on top of the ledge pick up this boulder and toss it. And
Wow.
they went back and they told this story, and people were saying, "Oh, it must have just rolled off the top of the ledge." Well, Chris says he's like, yeah, and that's why it had a backspin to it, right? The guys behind them watched this whole thing happen. This boulder being tossed. I'm not talking a little rock, okay? I am talking a massive boulder, and apparently it let out a scream and just let it rip.
Wow.
Let it rip. Landed right in between the two dudes. And from what I understand, it was a metal, aluminum or whatever canoe,
Like a Grumman canoe, like.
and it actually brought both ends up a little bit. And like the guys behind these two said it was unbelievable because this thing tossed it with just ease, Travis mentioned like the weight of a God, I can't remember. God, a granite. Forget the dimensions of it, but the size of a basketball.
Yeah.
Little bigger than basketball. Weighs what? What did he say, John? 100 and some pounds.
Yeah, like 130. I'm probably wrong. 135 pounds, something like that. Yeah.
Yeah, and this was bigger than that. So to do that kind of damage to a canoe, I mean, so it sounds like it was pissed off, that canoe race was going on, but yeah, I mean, yeah, it rolled off, landed right in the canoe. It would, and it had a backspin to it. Come on now, I mean, just unreal the things people say.
Well, the fact those two guys actually saw it is the really
they saw
cool
the whole
part.
thing. They
Yeah.
saw the whole thing. Gave Chris the full interview. I can't wait to get all those out so you guys can hear them. But that's interesting. It was a big, solid pitch black one, and they didn't have a lot of frame of reference on how big it was, how tall it was, but from what their opinion was, it was a big bull. It looked like a male the way it was built. Probably an eight footer in their opinion, at least 600 to 800 pounds. But just to toss something like that, that far, with ease, just sounds to me like it was irritating. Sounds to me like it was irritating. I mean, and I find that's what they do. I mean, I've had them thrown at me in North Carolina, and they launch them such a long ways. The power is just incredible, incredible. So I mean, that's a pretty good, and anyone that thinks we're bullshitting here, you think what you want, but these things are real and they do these things.
It's kind of like an AA meeting. We've all had our.
It is.
It
is. Yeah, absolutely. Okay, this one. Okay, this one. I think you all may have heard, but I'm going to tell it for the listeners. I cannot mention the guy's name. Something similar happened to my brother-in-law. These guys were down near Tully. I don't know if you guys know where that is. It's near Syracuse. Right below Syracuse. It's considered the southern tier. It's a big, huge, lot of deer down there. A lot of guys from up here go down and deer hunt. There's a group of about 6 guys. I know every one of them. And the one guy this event happened to was the guy in the group that was picked on all the time and, had his balls busted all the time. Anyway, they all go and they separate, get in their tree stands, and he comes back. They all meet at the camp, and one of the guys that was there was actually my uncle. I'll say that much. And the guy that this happened to was white as a ghost. He looked like shit, just scared out of his gourd, scared out of his mind, and he had lost control of his functions.
Yeah.
And they said, "What the hell happened to you?" Nothing. I don't want to talk about it. And they egged him on, called him a pussy. Yeah, just tell us, for crying out loud, Finally, he said, "Fine. You want to know what happened?" He's like, "I had a Sasquatch walk 5 feet in front of my tree stand. And they just immediately started laughing at him, busted his nuts, and they continued to bust his balls for 25 years. And you know, I called, I like I said, I know the guy, and I called him. I said, listen, I'm not asking you to come on a show. I just want to hear what happened from you. You know, and long pause. Say, Jeremiah, I haven't thought about that in years, or discussed this with anyone in years. I still have nightmares from it. And you could tell the tone of his voice when I said it was me. He knew what I was calling about. The tone of his voice changed immediately, almost to like the fear had come back. And he said, it didn't threaten me in any way, but just to see it, he said was just, it scared me. I thought he really thought he was going to die. It was going to do something to him. But these guys busted his balls for over 20 years. And, that's one thing in this field that it's got to stop.
Yeah.
Because it's therapeutic to talk about.
Mm-hmm.
Say
right.
it. Shawn, you know that. I know that. We all know that. It's therapeutic. And I tried to explain that to him, and he's like, well, maybe one day I'll get back to you and tell you the whole story. And he said it was massive. It was massive. And that's actually a very, very active area. It's down near the Onondaga Reservation, right outside of Syracuse. Lot of sightings down there. No, not really a lot. Not very mountainous, but there's just a lot of sightings. Here's the thing: runs right next to Interstate 81. Okay.
Really?
So, which brings me into my next thing. We interviewed a guy, Shawn. You interviewed with me, I believe. Remember the guy Brian that saw the pure white one?
Yeah.
Okay, that happened right near this. Shawn, myself, and JR interviewed a guy who unfortunately, actually, he passed away last year. I don't know if I told you. But anyway, oddly enough, this guy is connected to this guy. I'm not going to say how on the air because I don't want anyone to figure out who I'm talking about in the other case. But okay, do you guys remember in 2011 maybe it was, when people reported seeing that white Sasquatch along? Okay, it was seen. Who knows if it was the same one, but it still adds interest to the story. It was seen in New York State. It was seen, or a white one, New York State. And this is all along 81. Pennsylvania, excuse me, the first sighting was in Pennsylvania, with 81 to New York, and then all the way up, 81 and into New England. And this happened over a course of a few months. Now, makes me wonder, could it have been the same one? I mean, what do you guys think? I mean,
Possible.
What was the radius of
Possibly.
the miles? Huh?
Yeah.
What was the mile radius? Do you know?
yeah, it was seen, okay, from the spot in Pennsylvania it was first seen is only about, I'd say, a couple hours from Binghamton, New York, which is right below Syracuse. So for Sasquatch, it's not that far.
When
Yeah.
you say a couple hours, are you saying like you drive or by foot? I'm trying to figure this out because we're talking
It's
an
100
area,
Yeah, yeah, I know what you're talking about.
Yeah.
Well, from Syracuse to Binghamton, it is about 78 miles. Okay,
All right. Yeah.
so
That
it
could
would
be
have had
within a
to
range. Yeah.
absolutely,
Yeah. Sure. Yeah.
absolutely. And the way this thing was massive, massive. It wasn't albino. Okay, the way Brian described it was very blocky built. Okay, and he swears it was all of 9 feet. He framed it. It actually he lived in a very rural neighborhood, and he saw it walk. He had woods behind his house. It actually came out and walked on the road. Okay,
Mhm.
walked by the stop sign, and he measured the stop sign. After at the top of the stop sign, it was about 7 feet. He said, if I remember correctly. And he said this thing towered over it by about 2 feet.
Huh.
And then it went into the woods on the other side. But this is, like I said, it's all around Route 81. They saw in, PA, New York. They saw in Vermont, and all the way up into Maine. It's just a weird coincidence all around that time period.
Same color. Same color.
Same color, pure white.
It had. Look at the range of a deer. I mean, come on. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Exactly.
There's no brainer. That kind of a stride, the type of distance that they could cover.
Absolutely.
Yeah, no.
Absolutely. And he said it was the typical. He described this one as a typical, patty looking Sasquatch without the breasts, just a lot huge, just ungodly massive. He said
Yeah.
the most impressive part was the hips and from front to back, even though the shoulders were wide, but he was impressed with the
Yeah.
chest. But he's a very, very credible guy. But yeah, I just think that's interesting, and I kind of wanted you guys to give me your thoughts on that.
I think it could be the same one for sure.
Me too.
Especially, I mean, you think about the animal's habits. This might be one that doesn't really care about being seen as much as the other one. The other ones, most of them don't want to be seen. So this
And it
one's letting
seemed not
itself.
to, Shawn. It
Yeah.
seemed not to, because a lot of people saw it. A lot of people in those states saw this thing.
If it was that big, Jeremiah, too, and that color, maybe it was an older one, like a real old
that's
one.
possible. Yeah.
It could have been. It could have been.
Suffering from dementia.
Maybe.
Well,
But yeah, as far as no gray in it though.
but just white, but
pure.
That could be just old age, maybe. I don't know.
Could be, but yeah, could be.
Want any comments about old age and white?
Hey, I've got a little. It's coming in.
Yeah, there you go.
He said this thing though. The way he described it, it seemed like it was in its prime. I mean, I agree. I'm no expert, but the way he described it sounded like it was in its prime. Everyone else in those other states described it the same way.
Gotcha.
So just interesting.
Could be that color then,
Right. Exactly. Now here's one more here. You guys got here, and this is from my grandfather. And another one, John, you've heard, and Shawn, you've heard. They may have told you too. I'm going to mention it for the show.
Yeah.
Grandfather, as you all know, I come from a logging family.
Yeah.
Grandpa used to work, the logging camps in the Adirondacks, the deep. I'm talking deep.
You gotta get back in deep to do the job.
And this is okay. And mind you, keep in mind for future, we're about to say in the next few minutes. This is during the, right around the time of the Great Depression or shortly after.
Yeah.
So anyway, they get a camp up there, a bunch of guys working, and he said they would hear these things, they would see them. three guys. Okay, they would split up in the morning, go to the way they ran this particular camp. They would go to a spot and they would, cut down their trees, bring them back with a team of horses to their camp. Okay, well, these guys, these three dudes, had been talking for days, saying how they were being stalked by a couple of these creatures. Okay, popping their heads out behind trees, behind downed trees, and really messing with them, making them uncomfortable, throwing things at them. They got scared to the point where they came back to camp, and that morning when the foreman was giving out instruction on where everyone was going to be working that day, he was going to send them back to that spot, and they said, "We're not going back to that spot." And he said, "Well," he goes, "if you want this job, you're going to go back to that spot." They told him, that's how scared they were. And you tell me, some tough Adirondack men, why are they going to walk off a job
During the Depression.
Yeah.
Exactly. Something scared them. So they had they left. One of them, I think, it's been Gramps been dead 20 years, and so it's been a while since he told me that I've heard this story. One of them did stay. Two of them left. One of them never made it home.
What?
Yeah.
One of them never made it home.
They just disappear, or did they find him?
No, he never made it home.
Okay.
So the guy that stayed never made it home, Jeremiah?
The guy that stayed at the camp to work.
Yeah.
He stayed.
Oh.
He stayed.
So they
The
were
other two.
okay.
The other two left together. They had to split up. They had to split up at a certain point because they were headed to different areas, and they were on horseback. Okay.
Oh God. Okay. Wow.
One of them wasn't found. Was his wife got a hold of the foreman, but via post. I have you seen my husband? He's like, no, he left a few weeks ago. He never made it back.
Jeez.
Did they find the horse maybe, or just everything vanished?
Not that everything.
Beam me up, Scotty. They're
Wow.
gone.
Yeah.
I wonder.
411.
Yeah, I was gonna say. I wonder if Politis has covered that one, maybe.
No, definitely not, because this was just something.
Yeah. Word of mouth.
Grant. It's never been publicized, nothing like that. But he just my grandfather was working that camp.
Yeah.
He knew these these gentlemen very, very well.
They never sent out a search party or anything like that. He just never. It was probably too late.
No, they did look for him. The guys guys got together, and they looked for him, and they never found him.
Wow.
They never found him. No. I'll ask Dad more about it tonight. Dad knows more about it than I do, and I'll let you guys know.
These are stories. These are stories when you hear about people talk about the Depression and so forth. These are stories that are like a lot of people alive today, youngsters, I'll call them youngsters, don't understand it. I mean, all right, let me give you a really freaky kind of a thing, guys, all right? My great grandmother was born in 1856 and died in 1958.
Wow.
She was 102 years old. Now, she was born in 1856. She was alive during the Civil War. All right.
Yeah.
Now, I was born in 1949. Now, as far as stories go, you're looking at somebody right here that's talked to people that were alive during the Civil War. So
that's pretty cool.
There's your stories and how much attention you need to pay to somebody that's older. I wasn't around during the Depression, but my parents were. Oh, I've heard stories from my grandparents, and I've heard them use the term booger. I know there was a booger up the holler.
Yeah.
All right. I'm just trying to give older people a little more credit, I guess.
They used
Listen
my
to us.
grandfather,
You know,
granddad used to say they referred to him as the yelpers or
Yeah.
something like that. Yeah, yeah,
Oh, that brings me to another.
there you
Yeah.
go. Ta-da.
My friend Rachel. She's a good friend of mine. She's my brother's ex-girlfriend. They used to okay, so I told you the lady saw one just south of Lincoln, small town, 20 minutes away.
Mhm.
Rachel used to live down there, and there was a place that they would party, and they called it the Banshees. This area was known as the Banshees. They would hear these things screaming in an oak forest, just outside of their, you know, and they would hear them scream all the time. So they called that area the Banshees. We're gonna go down to the Banshees and get high. Let's go, you know.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
there's a little bit
Yeah.
more, no sighting or anything, but they would hear vocals all the time. Nobody ever knew what it was, and these are teenagers at the time.
Right.
But the
Right.
Banshees, yeah, that's another.
Interesting. Yeah. Very this is interesting.
Screaming like a
Did you ever
banshee.
find out the story behind Boogeyman Gulch?
Yeah, I was gonna tell you. I just thought of that. So I called him.
Tell
I
these
don't know.
guys the background first.
Well, it's my father-in-law, and he ran a hunting camp in the late 70s, early 80s, and there's lots of stories coming out of there of encounters and stuff. And so they named that Boogeyman Gulch. He told me.
Oh, so they did name it.
They named it that, yeah. Because I asked him like 2 days ago. It's funny you brought that up. Yeah, I just thought of it too. But
Very
yeah, I was hoping he'd say that was the name of it, but they named it that. But they named it that for a reason.
Yeah.
Sure.
No kidding.
Sure.
Boogeyman Gulch, you know. Yeah.
Would you mind telling John that story or?
I'm all ears, man.
All right.
That's
Yeah,
it.
I could tell it. So, you know, he ran this hunting camp for, I don't know, 6-7 years maybe. And they'd hunt. Well, Dave and his dad, my wife's grandpa, they'd actually hunted years and years before that up there, before he started the hunting camp up there as a business, you know. And this is an old school camp, you know, maybe some canvas tents, nothing fancy. And over the years, they'd all had weird experiences, felt like being watched, you know, hair standing up, heard screams. They'd hear a scream on one ridge and one would answer on the other ridge across the other direction, and just really freaked out. And there was this one particular area, it was a high mountain draw where they'd all hunted kind of in the past, but they'd all had weird, scary experiences in there. And so they kind of avoided it after so many years or whatever.
Yeah.
And some point during that, they had a hunter come in, one of Dave's clients. He was his name was Farrell. I know his name. I don't know his last name. I'd love to try to see if he's still around to actually get more details about this. I don't know if Dave knows how to get a hold of him now, because this was in the early 80s. So this hunter, who happened to be a Vietnam vet, you know, a real tough guy, they told him he wanted to go hunt in this area, this draw, and they said, well, you know, we kind of avoid it because it just freaks us out. We've had some weird experiences in there, so we don't go in there. And he wasn't having anything of that, and he decided to go in there. So he set up above this draw and was hunting elk. I think he'd been sitting there for, you know, quite a while. At some point, he focused in on what he thought was a big black stump down below him. Got some weird feelings, you know, that kind of thing. And at some point after that, this stump stood up, screamed at him, an ungodly scream, and took, I think he said 4 or 5 steps toward him, screamed again, and the guy freaked out, hightailed it back towards the old hunting camp. And this is a long ways. It's probably a mile and a half from the camp through really thick stuff. This is real thick, old growth, deadfalls. Not something you want to be running through in an emergency.
Mm-hmm.
So he hightailed it back towards the camp. This thing crashed, was screaming at him, chasing him, crashing, breaking trees, sticks the whole way. There's an old tree stand in between that spot and the old hunting camp, and we've hiked this many times ourselves. He jumped up in this old tree stand, checking his bullets, seeing how many bullets he had. He only had a few bullets, so he decided not to stay there and fight with it. He jumped out, went back to the camp, and left. He took off, went home right away. And then, the other guys, my father-in-law got back after dark, and he was gone. They were worried, but they knew his truck was gone. They knew he left. And there's really not much they could do, being way up this is really remote. And so, my father-in-law ended up tracking him down. I don't know if it was a week later, whenever they got back, and he told him the story of what happened. And basically he said, Dave, I saw a Bigfoot. I thought it was going to kill me. I thought it was going to die, and I'll never go back there. So, yeah, it'd be neat.
Where
to
was
interview
this?
that guy.
Where was this at? I'm just
Oh,
curious.
I'm sorry.
No,
This is
you're
the
good.
North Fork of the Clearwater River.
Okay, I'm not familiar.
To give you an idea, we go to Superior, Montana on I-90, Interstate 90. We jump off in Superior, Montana. You cross the river. I can't remember. It's the Clark Fork River. And then you're on the south side of the river. And basically you go through a pass. It's called Hoodoo Pass. You climb about 6,000 feet up, and you're in Montana, but you end up dropping back into Idaho on the Idaho side. And so basically it's the headwaters of the North Fork of the Clearwater River. There's a bunch of high mountain lakes up there, and they have creeks that flow into the North Fork of the Clearwater. So long story short, super, super remote area. Like where I'm telling you this happened, you don't see people at all up there.
Yeah.
It's not a place, because you really have to make an effort to get there. It's probably where that happened is probably 8 miles from where you can last park a vehicle on a remote Forest Service road.
Yeah.
So anyways.
No, that's great.
Yeah. Scary
Good
sight.
area.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. Yeah. An area like that, I always get a kick out of it.
Why isn't it?
You'll see somebody, they have a video, and they're trying to prove that Bigfoot is there, and then they'll say in the video, we're in a place that is so hard to get to.
There's no reason why the
There's
Bluetooth part shouldn't
anybody ever gets back here, but you always think, well,
You know
you're
what I mean?
there.
It's
And
working
taking
just
a
fine.
video.
Yeah, is it on the right channel?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
We can hear you, Justin.
John, this is one of those kind of places that it's just that no one would ever really go there. If they didn't know where it was at. These guys were hunting deep in. They went in on horse. They rode horses in there, and they're hunting elk, so they're deep in the mountains. But yeah, so I mean,
no, I believe what you're saying.
Yeah.
My kick is a lot of the Bigfoot hunters that do the videos, and Jeremiah knows what I'm talking about. Yeah,
no, I hear
I can't. You said the Clark River.
The Clark Fork's down off of I-90 there in Montana. Yeah.
Right. I can't help but wonder. Now that brings this up. You'd have to do some research. It's Lewis and Clark. All right.
Yeah. No, they went through that area. In fact,
that's why it's named that. But I can't help but wonder if they've seen, if they saw anything.
I always wondered that too, and you're right. In fact, there was a game warden up there in that area. His name was Gene Eastman. He actually wrote a book called The Bitterroot Crossing, and that's a book about Lewis and Clark. He retraced their steps going through that whole area. And my father-in-law was friends with Gene, because Gene patrolled that whole area for 30 years on horseback. He was the game warden up there. And apparently he had a lot of weird stories about Sasquatch too. So I'm glad you brought that up. But yeah, he actually wrote a book about Lewis and Clark going through that area.
Always open for history, man. You never know.
You can find it on Amazon. Yeah, it's called The Bitterroot Crossing. Look it up, Gene Eastman. Yeah.
Well, the Vikings, I mean, they talk about the ogres, when they first came.
Right.
And, why they turn around,
Because Leif Erikson pissed his pants.
Yeah. I mean, the fiercest group of warriors ever to, it's just that's very interesting to me.
Well, hey, now that you mentioned that, didn't Leif Erikson say that he saw giants in the mountains, or hairy giants?
Yes.
Yes.
Did.
Yeah. Ogres, he referred to him as. Yep.
Yeah. Yeah.
Hairy ogres. Yep.
Yeah.
Daniel Boone even says that he killed one.
No
Yes,
kidding?
I've heard that. I've heard that.
I hadn't heard that. That's interesting.
I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Yeah, killed a hairy wild man.
Wow.
Shot at one. He doesn't know if it died or not, but yeah.
I'll be darned.
Now, why would he come? Why would he come up with a story like that?
Yeah.
You know, out of the clear blue. You know.
Well, you know,
That was in Kentucky, right, John?
Yeah. Yep.
you know, I don't know if you guys are aware of it. It'd be a good book to pick up. I love the history too, like you guys. David Paulides wrote a book recently. You know, he started writing Bigfoot books, and then he went into Missing 411. Well, he just maybe 2 years ago he wrote a book. He went back in the archives and found all the old newspaper articles from like the late 1800s, early 1900s. And, you know, it was in the newspapers all the time back then about people seeing wild men and giant people in the woods. And it was kind of, I guess, more accepted maybe back then. I don't know. But,
I mean, it's definitely interesting. I told you guys before, my dad was actually, when that kid went missing, the Douglas leg case in the Adirondacks, he was actually, it wasn't his case. He wasn't the lead investigator, but he was on the search.
Right.
You know, and I try to get info about it all the time from him, and he just doesn't like to talk about it. So they never found.
Yeah.
And you know, there's a lot. He says there's a lot left out. You know.
Right. Well, that'd be neat information to have or know. You know, maybe someday you can get it out of him. I understand. You know, he wouldn't want to talk about it, but.
Yeah, and being his, you know, more than, you know, his mother was full-blooded Mohawk. His father was, you know, half. So, you know, with his background, his ethnicity, you know, native, you know, being native, he said personally he thinks, you know, that's what grabbed the kid, you know. So, but he said it was weird, and I know this is common, but the dogs several times would get on and they used bloodhounds back then. Would get on a trail and they'd all of a sudden stop and just lay down, you know, several times, which is common. The police dogs will do that, but he said it happened an awful lot.
Yeah.
You know, this is down near God. It was a very, very wealthy family. Speculator, New York. Look it up. Right dead center in the Adirondacks. Very remote. Very remote. Very remote. Lot of activity.
Right.
Up there.
Yeah.
We need to get Stu back on here. You know, you talk about like ogres and trolls and a lot of terminology from the older country.
Yes.
Fairies. We got a lot of fairy stories out there.
Oh,
too.
yeah.
Oh, yeah.
I miss him. I miss Stu. So, yeah.
Yeah.
Isn't there
I talked to him tonight. He'll make it. Stu's our guy from the UK. You guys haven't met him yet.
And he's
great guy.
He's the only person on this show that's allowed to say asshole, right?
Yeah. He does it really good.
Very well.
Yes, he does. Yes, he does. But he's got some cool stuff from the UK, you know. A lot of cool, a lot of cool stories, you know.
Very cool.
And to hear somebody with that accent cuss is great.
Oh, it's just awesome.
Like E.F. Hutton, when he speaks, you listen.
Exactly.
Yes,
Stu's fun to listen to.
Well,
he is, yeah. And I'm gonna try to Steve Baxter, the guy that does our logos. He's gonna come on and join us some night as well. He's a really good guy too. Different parts of the UK, but he's got some good stuff as well. You know. But anyway, I mean, geez, what time is it? We've been really. God, it flies by.
It sure does. It does, yeah.
And I gotta pee, so.
Yeah, you go bleed a lizard, Shawn, and
we don't have a sponsor on here, but what we were talking about earlier today, guys, copy that down.
Premier Arms.
Premier Arms,
yes.
yes.
Premier Arms. Okay.
Hey,
we'll-
Premier Arms, you're our sponsor tonight.
There we go.
You got it?
will do.
Got
You
it.
got
Yeah.
it? There it is.
Yeah.
All righty.
Def-
I need some
definitely.
5.56 Premier. Let's
Ah.
get some going here.
Yeah.
Some
How
223
are,
and some 5.56, please.
I'm desperately trying to find some more. Trying to start up with some buckshot right now. I can't. It's so hard to find up here right now.
Yeah. Just regular shotgun shells, just target ammo.
Yeah.
Is everywhere, and it does a real good job at close range with anything. So I've got boxes and boxes
Yeah.
and boxes and boxes of that shit.
Can always do a cut shell. You know what a cut shell is, don't you?
Absolutely.
I want you to do that, but you want a full bore, you're shooting it out of. But if you're looking for buckshot and you can't find it, go look up fishing sinkers.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
Or
Oh,
get
yeah.
a-
Yeah.
Get a fishing sinker mold that you can make your own small fishing sinkers out of. It works. I got
Yeah.
one. Yeah.
Well,
And
Xavier's got a slingshot, and
a slingshot mold too. Is that what you
you
got?
get the nice big ball bear. The
Yep.
ball bearings. Maybe you probably couldn't fit 9 of them in a
I
Hey,
worked
shell.
I worked with a guy. You're gonna love it. All right, I gotta say, just mentioned it. I worked with a guy that had one of the wrist rockets. The kind
Yeah.
that comes around. Okay, he had one of those, and we had spray. We were working with spray paint cans, and he emptied one of them out, and he goes, "Dude, there's something in this." I went, "Yeah, it's a marble," and he goes, "Oh shit, man!" He got in there and he started emptying out these spray paint cans. He cut them open at work, and he's pulling the marbles out of them and letting them dry. Right, so he's got a bunch of primered marbles and so forth. And he's like, the boss is not around. He's like, "Shit, man, I'm going to go into the plating room." It was all 4 walls, concrete, right? And he says, "Man, I'm going to watch this thing." He says, "I want to see it break to pieces." And I go, "It's not going to break. It's going to come back and you're going to shoot your eye out."
Gonna shoot your eye out, kid.
I'm just doing the BB gun thing to him, right? And that poor SOB come back out of that room going like this. He's like, and he goes, "Can you see it? Did I hurt it bad?" Had glass ball bearings with a wrist rocket. Don't shatter when they hit a concrete wall. They bounce back. Sucker caught him right in the forehead.
Wow.
Anyway,
Oh my God.
yeah, don't listen to anybody that's older. Shoot, like,
That's
I've never
funny.
tried that, No, yeah.
Good
All
job.
right, guys. So that was a good discussion. I wanted before we break, I wanted to ask you guys something. How would you guys feel about I upgraded my package on Zoom. We could now, if we all made a group decision, we could actually do the show live.
Yeah,
Oh, that'd be cool.
Why
That'd
not?
be cool. Yeah.
it may
Do
have
it,
to be
do it
longer.
live and then release it on YouTube later or something.
Yeah.
Edit
Yeah,
it.
that'd be cool.
Get
Yeah.
keep
Why
the
not?
cut the morons out, other than the morons we have right here. I mean,
Well,
Yeah.
yeah, without a doubt, yeah.
Yeah.
But
Hey, John.
next week, we'll do. Oh, and I want to encourage all the viewers out there. If you guys ever have anything that you would like us to cover, on the show, don't be afraid to throw it out there, and we will do our best to get it covered for you. Especially if we go live, then people can ask questions and so
Or if anybody wants to come on the trail, if there's any witnesses out there and you'd want
absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
to do an on the trail and talk about what happened, we're open to that too.
Absolutely. Yep, for sure. We do this
I
for
gotta
you
go.
guys, and go do your business, Shawn.
You guys have a great night, man.
Hey, Shawn,
Yep.
good to see you, bud.
You
Sean.
too, buddy. We'll see you
Yeah.
later.
Yeah.
Be good.
So still recording, but good show, guys. Want to thank all you viewers out there for supporting our show. We're missing Gary and Travis tonight. and God, JR, man, he's like Bigfoot, man. He's just hard to find. uh, so, but
I got
yeah,
just a
Do
quick
some
question for John.
sure.
I know he's a 4570 guy. Have you ever shot the
This
grizzly?
John,
the,
John, yeah.
the
Yeah.
grizzly
Have I
plus P
Have I-
ammo?
Oh yeah, yeah.
That stuff hurts the shoulder, man. I
Oh
ordered
yeah.
I think it's out of Texas. Maybe it's called Grizzly, but it's
Yeah,
plus
grizzly
P. I think it's
ammo.
420 grain. I think. And boy,
My-
I could only shoot it like 3 times,
I shoot 405 grain, and
or maybe
out of
that's what it was. Yeah,
the
it might
lever
have been-
action. Yeah.
Yeah.
The one that you want to look out for is the penetrator round that's brass,
Yes, I'm
and you
familiar
look
with.
at the end of it. It's like
Yeah, it's
okay.
Lehigh Defense. Round.
Yeah, that'll kill a lion. I mean,
No kidding.
mountain lion, it'll kill a bear. You know, grizzly.
Yeah.
What would that be equivalent to, like similar to, John, a partition round, or?
Well, it's solid
different.
brass. It's solid.
Okay, okay.
I'll show you, Jeremiah. Hold on.
Yeah.
Solid
sure.
brass. And you know,
Okay.
I still subscribe to the idea that, you know, you can kill a grizzly with a grizzly. You could kill a Bigfoot with a 357. You can kill a walrus with one. So why couldn't anything that's going to penetrate and go deep?
Yeah.
44 Magnum.
Here's-
is good with the
Now,
right
this
ammunition,
is
you know.
where's my camera? This is a 10 millimeter.
Yeah,
that's-
there you go.
That's what it looks like. It's
Okay.
got some real sharp edges on it, and it's is it brass or copper?
You know what? You're
I think
probably
it's
right.
copper,
It is
isn't it?
copper. It is copper.
Yeah, I think it is.
It's
copper.
solid. It's solid,
just-
but
It just cuts through bone. Yeah, you can shoot this through a stump, and it doesn't deform or anything. It stays just like this.
they were shooting in a black locust log the other day on one of the videos. What's the name of that? Target Sweet on YouTube. Target Sweet is the name of it. And he's shooting into a black locust log, and a 405 grain. I think it went like about 10 inches, something
Yeah.
like that. And he shoots that extreme penetrator, and it's like 18 or 20 inches,
Yeah,
and it's still whole.
yeah.
It's still whole. And so
John, John, I got to send you some pictures. Maybe, are you on Messenger?
Facebook Messenger. Yeah, you can. Get me
Okay,
there.
yeah. I'll try to find you on there. I got to send you some pictures. We shot 4570 hard cast round through a log. I'm not kidding. It was probably that big a round. It went through the whole thing, came out the other side, made a trench in the dirt, probably 7-8 feet past the log, and we dug it out. Right. I mean, it was just like, yeah.
Was it
amazing.
still majority of it there? I would.
Oh,
assume.
the whole thing.
Yeah.
I've got a picture of the round with the dirt on it. Yeah.
Well,
Damn.
it's like a lot of things. They designed the round and then built a gun to fit it, and that was back in 1873. And it was designed to hit a horse at 500 yards, go through the horse, and hit the Indian laying on the opposite side.
Yeah.
Yeah, something to that effect.
Took your advice, John, about that's some
Oh, shit. Yeah.
stuff. Yeah.
Yeah, those now that you're shooting that out of a barrel that's rifled, yeah.
I
Those
have
are
a rifle. I got a rifle. I can put a rifle barrel on, and
yeah.
I got a smooth bore.
Have you shot it yet?
I've shot it. I've shot buckshot through it, but not the savage yak.
It's a little different than shooting buckshot. It's a little sharper, but you'll be able to get through it. You know, I mean, at that point you're shooting a rifle, man. You're not shooting a shotgun. But you know,
This is the
there you go.
new toy.
Nice.
I just ordered some more dressing up for it's more dress up.
Is that semi-auto? Semi-auto?
It's by Prefer Pump.
Oh, it's pump. And what is that? Because I didn't hear you, man.
It's Arms Core VRP 840.
Oh, okay. You know, I think they ought to make a clip that would work on, say, it would fit into just about any shotgun. Like, why doesn't Mossberg have that?
Mm-hmm.
You know,
Right.
A universal.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, universal clip,
Mm-hmm.
and it would, you know. Now, I don't know. You got laws like, you can shoot like 3 rounds when you're duck hunting or something to that effect, or turkey hunting. You only have, so you got a stick that you put in the end of the tube. But I don't hunt turkey and I don't hunt ducks. So I just, when I'm out, I load the tube full of whatever, like deer slugs or sabot rounds. To me, it gives more weight out there. Literally does. And that's like with my 45-70, I can get 9 rounds in it.
Mhm.
It's
Beautiful.
26-inch tapered octagon barrel, and the tube is such. Now,
Let me cut this
the-
recording real quick, and then we'll hang
Yeah.
around for a second. But thank you, everyone. We will see you next week.